All right. Good afternoon. We're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Martinsville Speedway in advance of the Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief 400 at Martinsville Speedway tomorrow night. And we've now been joined by Denny Hamlin, driver of the number 11 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota, also our most recent winner in the NASCAR Cup Series. So, Denny, thanks for spending some time with us. We hope you had an enjoyable week coming off that victory there at Richmond. So we're going to open for questions for Denny. If you have one, raise your hand. We'll get to as many people as we can. And we'll start here with Hank.
Hey, Denny. Hank Kurz with AP. How much does the close proximity of the racing here, and, you know, we've talked a lot about the physicality of the racing and the sturdiness of the cars. How much does that could that possibly alter the way the race goes or just make it more dicey?
Yeah, I think it probably will lend itself to guys being more aggressive with, getting into each other side to side. So probably could be the outside lane, not giving the inside lane as much room because they're not as worried about tire rubs or whatnot. So certainly it could change little things here and there. It's not something that I'm sure you'll see or the casual fan will see, but certainly inside baseball, yeah, probably.
All right, we're going to go to Bob, and then I'll make my way here to the left side of the room. Go ahead, Bob.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. Keselowski lost his appeal. I'm curious, especially as a team owner, how much are you trying to find out about what happened, what was the argument, and do you feel any better or worse from anything that you've heard over the last couple of weeks that things are, I guess, that that if you do what you were supposed to do that you'll be okay, or is there any concern that, man, we're scrambling to put the cars together and worried about breaking rules?
Yeah, I mean, we think we know, but we don't exactly know unless it's said publicly for sure. But yeah, I mean, I certainly think there should be a level of transparency there. But yeah, we know, generally speaking, if we go by the rule of thumb that NASCAR has given us, we'll be in good shape. Now, they have opened up some areas here and there because of supply and driver comfort stuff, things like that. So it's not completely just bolting together a stock car like maybe intended, but we're the big things it is. So if it was a big thing that was altered, then certainly it'll be a tough way to convince them that you're not trying to get an advantage.
All right, we're going to go to Jermaine, and then we'll go up front to Matt. Go ahead, Jermaine.
Good afternoon, Denny. Jermaine Farrell, WFXR in Roanoke. I got a couple of questions for you. Number one, I mean, you guys over at JGR, I mean, Richmond is your playground. It seems like Martinsville is the same thing. From your perspective, I mean, and obviously you're the active leader in wins at Martinsville, but why are you guys so good here at Martinsville?
I mean, personally speaking, I think I got two of the best short track teammates out there. I mean, I'm short of that, I'm not sure. It's not like our setups from previous generation cars were a big thing. Richmond just a decade ago just really took a swing. There was always one or two guys that would run well at Richmond, but it just seems like myself and Kyle learned a ton off of each other. And same thing when Matt Kenseth came over and he started winning short tracks, and Martin now as well. I mean, these guys are good. They're just, driver is always going to be your biggest X factor where you finish week to week. And so tracks like Richmond, aerodynamics aren't as big of a deal. Setups are, but your driver is just as important. And I just think that I'm paired with, some of the best short track guys in our series right now.
And then obviously the 75th anniversary of the Martinsville Speedway, and you're part of that history and that lore. For you personally, what's it like to be a part of that history? I mean, like I say, you got 5 Cup wins here.
Yeah, I mean, it's special for sure. I wasn't able to win the big late model race here for the years that I tried. Came close a few times, but just was a track that I'd actually had a few laps at before I got into a Cup car here. So it was the only track that I'd felt somewhat comfortable in before I got into the Cup Series. And so it's just this is kind of the essence of the short tracks in which we grew up. The asphalt late model guys. This is what we grew up doing, is this type of racing, and it's rolling the center of the corner, back to gas, saving the rear tires. That's our style of racing. So essentially, we certainly have a good feeling when we come to these types of tracks that we've been racing for decades.
All right, Matt, go ahead.
Matt Weaver, Racing America. So to that point you made earlier about how having experience in a late model and a truck and then a cup car, now the next gen, do you think this is just going to be another stock car that you should adapt to this place pretty quickly? Or is it kind of like what Gabe Hart said last week, that it's going to take a lot of your strengths and really challenge them?
A little bit of both, but yeah, I suspect that we can still take our same techniques and be pretty good here. But you will have to change some things. I know that, there's little things that just people don't know that changes the game so much. Tires is the biggest thing that contributes to the racing that we have today. We used to have tires that you get 15, 20 laps on them and they just blow off. When I say blow off, like there's no grip in them. So you had to really modulate. And then, what we've gone through a transition where the last few years it's just been matted every lap, just run as hard as you can. There's no reward for saving or anything like that. It's just not worth what you gain is not worth what you get back from it. So it is it's different, but you'll still see the guys that have found ways to win here, I think, find ways to win here.
And then kind of on that similar note, two tires, different compound tire with the truck series, but not a lot was laid down, not a lot of fall off. Do you guys have a pretty good idea of what this tire with the next gen's going to do?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, right? We look at old races here and the track is black. Looks like asphalt, but it's just that the rubber would stick to the concrete. Now today's tires don't really do that. It doesn't clump up like we used to. It doesn't stick to the racetrack, and then the moment a caution comes, you just pick it all right back up. We see it at Dover every time we go, that the track becomes black. You see those high-speed cameras, and then a caution, and next thing you know, it looks like it just got power washed. So it's just so different than what it used to be, and you have to change your style of driving for that. And I talked to Ty on the way here, and it's just, he said the track was really green, and they really don't know how much they learned. And I just think that I lean more on the people that tested here and their comments, which was, you need to look for this and not that. So.
All right, we're going to continue with questions. We'll go to Al, and then Mark, Peter, and Claire. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, Denny, Al Pearson, Model Week. Throughout your entire career, Minnesocket, Langley, Southside, Kinley, everywhere through this weekend, do you subscribe to the theory that if you race long enough, you'll get back the ones that you lost that you shouldn't have lost, and over an entire career, do things even out?
Well, I'm definitely a believer in odds for certain. I think that if you flip a coin 10 times, it's going to be heads or tails. It could be 80-20. You flip it 1,000, and it's not going to vary more than 55%. So it's just the more times you do it. So yes, to answer your question, I do subscribe to that theory that if you do it long enough, the odds will go to your favor. I'm subscribing to that every time I make it to the Final Four as well. Hell no! I've lost way more than I've ever gotten back from luck. That's for sure. Yeah, I have, but a lot of it is because I make a bonehead move. It's not because I've had so many weeks, and we keep track of all this stuff within our team, but between the last, I don't know, since I've been working with Gabe Hart, we keep track of what were we capable of doing, and honestly, we're capable of winning 40% of the races that we compete in. That's a huge number, but there's so many X factors that we can't control that take out 10%. Driver makes a mistake, take out another 5%. It's just so many. It makes it so tough to win in the sport. You know, we're in a losing business for a reason. You know, it's us versus 35 others, and a lot of times there's factors that you can't control that sometimes keep you from winning, and then sometimes things work out great.
All right, Mark, go ahead.
Mark Arrow, PRN. Sort of along the same lines, Denny, in things going through cycles. Last year, you guys basically ran all the laps, ran up front a bunch, and now you have probably as many DNFs now this year than maybe the last 2 years combined.
That's correct.
So how frustrating is that, and what's it like to go through a cycle like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that I've had one last 5 or 6 races like that where it was just atrocious finish after atrocious finish, but I probably have. I mean, I've been doing this for forever, but it didn't worry me as much as it probably should have. I mean, just because I knew that we would figure it out. Like, my team's good enough that we're going to get over any kind of little slump that we're in. It's just a matter of time. It's been a long time since we've just searched for speed and not figured out why we can't win. That's been years and years and years ago. I mean, really, 2018 really is the year where it was like, I mean, it's not that I couldn't figure it out, but we just couldn't get to victory lane. Since then, it's like the answers are right there in front of us. We just go to work on what that is.
So the DNFs, I mean, how do they play into, you're trying to search for seed, you're just trying
Well, yeah, I mean, I knew before the season started that we're going to have more cautions, we're going to have more wrecks, there's going to be more attrition, the average finish for the leader is going to be higher. That's why we've had 5 different point leaders or something, because it's hard for anyone to string together any kind of consistency right now, because there's more mechanical failures that's in play, more restarts because of things happening, more opportunities for your day to get derailed. So that's why we see everyone just, their finishes bouncing all over the place. I think it will start to get leveled out, but it probably will be the end of the year when we feel good about that every part on the car is super reliable. We're not failing things. We've understood what works with it, how we need to restart with it. All those things, it's going to get better with time. And certainly I think that if it does, then you'll start to see the cream rise back to the top.
My last question is sort of related in the sense that you didn't get to run the whole distance at Daytona, but did you get a feel for how these cars ran on the super speedway, and what kind of race do you expect at Talladega?
Yeah, it was unfortunate because we had drove right to the front there when we ended up getting crashed, but it was I really wanted an opportunity because I tested there, and I was really happy with the knowledge that I'd gotten before the 500, and I thought I had an advantage over the field because I had so much time with it before the 500. It sucks I didn't get to show it, but it was but I'm confident we got to a good place. Yes, I was a little worried after the test that, oh my gosh, we're gonna have this style type of racing. Is that right or wrong? But in the end, I think that we showed that with some time, some testing, it put on a good show there, and it probably will in the next super speedway race.
All right, we're going to continue going. We have about 4 or 5 people here left to get questions in, so help me out with the number of questions you're asking if you can. Peter, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I just got one.
I hear you.
You're good, Peter. Go ahead.
I just got one question. Peter Strada, TSJ Sports. Denny, 10 years ago, you gave Joe Gibbs their 100th win. Now chasing 200. I think they're only 5 away. What would 200 mean if it came from the 11 team?
It would be special for sure. I mean, those big wins like that always seem to be celebrated just a little bit more. There's just it's good. It's good for your confidence, I'd say. That's pretty much the gist of it. But I mean, that's a lot of wins. Certainly, I remember the 100th. I think came at Loudon or something like that. So, just basically means I've been around a very long time.
All right, Claire, go ahead.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Stick with me here, Denny. You you know, you didn't have an atrocious finish last week and you won. Are you able to race this race, even though you know how you want to race here, any differently because you can have a little more wild abandon, or you can race freer, or you don't have that on your back? Can you race this race any differently?
Yes is the answer. We were, I mean, I forget, probably a week or two before that, we were like, you know, Chris told me, he's like, let's just have a nice solid day. Like, you know, we all want to win, but like we gotta stop the bleeding a little bit. And so certainly now that we've stopped the bleeding on that side, sure, I feel a little bit more confident in being aggressive in this race because of the win last week. Not because I was worried about making the playoffs or not, just simply because, man, eventually you just keep having bad finishes. It's tough on the team. It's tough for them to keep them excited about what we're doing here. So I think now certainly I won't have that voice in my head saying, you know, be careful, more so than I did before.
And you don't show pressure a lot. You seem so calm on the outside, but do you feel the pressure being off?
Sure, yeah, it's fair. You know, we went all last regular season, even though really, really strong, you know, not winning until the playoffs, and then the first 2 rounds we did. But yeah, you just want to keep that momentum of winning happening, because, you know, over the last 3 years we've won a lot, and so you don't like to have that lull in wins, because you start to not second guess anything, but you start searching around, okay, why aren't we winning? Let's find out why.
All right, we're going to go to Kelly, Dustin, Jordan, and Lee. We'll see how we do on time. Go ahead.
KellyCrandallRacer.com. Denny, I want to go back to something you were talking about. I think it was with Brad on Twitter. You replied to one of his tweets about not seeing the same type of racing every week. How much of that is a product of this car, if at all?
How much is what a product of it?
Because it seems like every weekend so far to start the year, we've had a little bit of something different. Like,
Yep.
So is any of that a product of this car, or is it just the racetrack?
I mean, a lot of it is racetrack dependent, but I think we've had some exciting finishes because we've had restarts at the end of the races at some of these tracks, and it's because of mechanical failures or wrecks. You know, we're just wrecking a little bit more in this car, and it's created some great finishes. And not only that, but, you know, Richmond is a whole different one, right? It turned into a, you know, cars in the top 5 all decided to do something different, and it all came to head within 5 laps to go. So I do think that that's good to have multiple types of different races play out. Listen, I mean, I'm a huge proponent of stop giving the kid the candy, because eventually they're not going to want it. They're going to want something else, and it's going to have to be better and sweeter and more sugar, right? You just can't keep feeding the same thing. They're not going to, you know, it's not going to be as special. If we had 36 Daytona 500s, how special would that be? It wouldn't be very special, right? So we only have one, and that's what makes it so unique. When we come to Martinsville, we had 36 Martinsville, would not be that interesting. But we come here and it's unique because it's like, wow, so this person won this week. Will that translate to this track? It's so different. And we see week in, week out, the competition changes. You know, different cars are running up front on different tracks because those teams are hitting on a setup or something. You know, no one has a big book of database set up yet. So that's why you're seeing such a diverse group of winners and people up front. Is it's almost just right now a roll of the dice of who hits it, and we're hitting it on a different type of track each week, which is why we're seeing so different of racing.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm not going to make it to everyone. Dustin, we'll go ahead with you for our final question for Denny.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. What needs to be done with 2311? It's been a rough patch for you guys for sure.
Yeah, it has. I mean, again, just trying to stop the bleeding there, and you know, it's you know, I said earlier this week, you know, it's just the win, like, was really exciting until, you know, you get out on the car and you look down the pylon and say, what the fuck, you know, like, what's going on? But it's just it's agitating, you know, because it's different things on different teams, but it's just a 2-week slump that we got to get out of. But we're trying to address all the issues that there is. 23 cars, pit crew's not doing well. I'm in a meeting with Joe Gibbs Racing, and I thank them for everything they do for me, and then we walk out of that meeting into another, and I'm cussing them out because, we're just not doing a good enough job over there. So it's just a very, interesting thing that goes on, but that's part of it. And then, the freak thing that happens with the 45. We got a new sponsor over there, and, the car's sitting in the garage for 100 laps. So it's agitating, but it's hopefully we look back in this 2 months from now and say it's just a little bump in the road, because certainly it's not acceptable by any means.
All right, Denny, we appreciate you spending time with us, and we wish you the best of luck this weekend.
All right, thanks.